Hey, Content City Geeks, we're back, and we've got an awesome guest with us. We got Rodney Barnes, who is working on the new solo comic that's coming out that teams up Lando and him together in the hunt for the Falcon. It's going to be awesome. If you haven't read any other stuff that he's worked on, he did Ahsoka, The Inquisitors. Definitely you want to pick those up. Before we get him in the room, let's give a quick shout out to Dragon's Lair Alamo Ranch. If you are a comic collector or if you are a gamer for Warhammer 40k, Pokemon, Magic, you definitely want to come here. Of course, you have any comic questions, you can always hit me up. I'm there. Normally Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And then, of course, one show that's going to be in San Antonio, Casa, which is November 15th, 2025 at the Red Oaks Ballroom at the North Center. It's going to have comic creators, independent creators, comic legends from Marvel, DC. You definitely want to check the lineup up. Go to the website. You don't want to miss out on this one. And of course, let's get Rodney in the room. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Pretty good, sir. You have been a busy man.
I have been.
You do your you doing your podcast, which is awesome. I love those stories that you do. And your voice on top of that, it's one of those things that you want to, like, if you had a campfire, you just play that and just listen to those stories. That's a perfect, so those stories are those stories that you write?
We have a writer's room where a lot of our writers will come in and pitch stories. And the formula of it is basically there's me as a kid or me at various stages of my life and my grandmother. And my grandmother told me scary stories for real when I was a kid. And she got me into like the Universal Monsters and some of the other stuff that I love. And so when I pitched the podcast, it was basically me and my grandmother, but at various times. Like, sometimes as an adult, I'm remembering a story that she told me, or as a kid, a story that she actually told me. So we integrate that into a regional monster. Like back in Maryland, we had a monster called Goat Man. It was sort of our Bigfoot. And we had Chessie, which was our Loch Ness monster. So what we do is we make those stories, in quotes, real.
Nice. See, and that's what's fun. I mean, okay, I don't know if it's just us as the older generation. My grandma used to tell us stuff, of course, here in San Antonio. It's the La Llorona.
Yeah, we have that too. We did one of those. We did La Llorona. Yes, we did that too.
And then there's another one that there's a little tale they talk about here in San Antonio where there's this little bar on the south side of San Antonio that this lady's dancing with this guy, and then before she realizes he's like the devil, basically, one chicken leg, one goat leg kind of thing. My grandma used to tell us that. So yeah, so when I listen to your podcast, it just reminds me of like my grandma too, like the way you said. It's just it's so cool. But then that's not the only thing you've done. You've done a lot of things that you're writing for. How do you juggle it as a writer for writing comics and then writing your stuff at the same time? How can you?
I kind of, when I wake up in the morning, usually there are about a quarter of the emails I have is someone yelling at me saying, "Where's my stuff?" So whoever's yelling and using the most cuss words, those are the people I address first.
Okay.
And if you're cordial and nice, okay, I got another week. All right, I got a few more days. So, it's funny because I don't really differentiate television and film from comic books, or I'm writing a couple of novels now too. All of it sort of falls into the same bucket.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your routine, I've interviewed a number of writers and artists. They have routines. Like some writers carry a notebook with them, and they carry it with all the time. So if they have a dream or something, they get up and they write the notes down. Or if they're walking or something and an idea pops in their head, they write it down. And it's just a mixture of stuff. And then they know what's your
I have
thing?
my iPhone. The beautiful thing about notes on iPhone, like I have a bunch of notes that I will write down if an idea hits me. And the thing that's getting bad now is I don't even remember when I make a note what I was actually trying to accomplish
Oh, wow.
because I'm writing so quickly. So sometimes I forget. But I don't do a pad as much as I do My phone
Oh
is like
wow.
everything.
Yeah, no, that thing has come in handy for quite a bit of stuff. Quick snapshot of the camera, video. I mean, it's there for everything that you need at your disposal.
It might be my only friend. Might be.
So between writing, of course, you started writing Star Wars, which was Mandalorian first, and then you
No, Lando.
Lando. That's it,
Lando
Lando.
Double or Nothing was the first Star Wars property I wrote.
So getting to write for such iconic character when you got that how was it? Did you pitch the story to them, or did they come to you? How did that process go?
Absolutely terrifying. I the way I've gotten every job, with the exception of the first job, which was Falcon for Marvel. Email. Email will
Okay.
show up one day from an editor saying, "Hey, we like that you did this. Would you like to do that?"
Wow.
Um, I can say so far, 100% of the time, I've said yes. I
I
don't
would
think
do
I've
the
ever
same.
said, Batman came that way.
Oh, that's
Everything's
another
come
one.
that way. Everything's come that way
Okay,
through email.
we're here for Star Wars, but you bought that as you bought it up.
Hmm.
Dude, where did you come up for that story? That story for Batman it was like the images, the artist who drew the stuff. It's like
Hmm.
when you see Batman walking in that one room. I'm sorry, we're jumping off subject real quick.
No, yeah.
But the page, you see Batman and Commissioner Gordon talking,
Hmm.
and you see Batman kind of like scoping the body
Yes,
as a detective, and
yes,
it reminded me of like NCIS and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I was just mind blown. And people who came into the store and they were looking for something to read, I was
Hmm.
like, hey, this is a 5-issue series.
Hmm.
You want to pick it up. You don't want to miss out on this because it's if you like crime and if you like this, you want to read it. Where did you come up with that? That was just beautiful. Everything that you did.
Thank you. I am a huge Neil Adams fan.
Oh,
When I was a kid, and I
yeah,
think what Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil, Dick Giordano, if I'm saying his name correctly, when they did Batman as a detective. Like that's what he was. He was a detective as he was as much a superhero. Sometimes you would find him like in the narrows, in the dark, trying to figure out something, trying to find out where a bad guy was. And I wanted to go back to that because everybody sort of has him high flying now and dealing with, it's really about him and whatever villain he's going up against. I wanted to kind of bring it back because my werewolf wasn't necessarily a villain as much as he was a victim. He was cursed.
yeah,
And it's the curse that was the bad guy, not the human being under the curse or being, haunted by the curse. So I wanted to give Batman more of a stake of being a detective and figuring things out and taking clues back to the Batcave and, talking to Alfred and mulling things over and thinking as much as he did swinging his fists and kicking and grappling guns and
yeah.
all of that stuff. And the story itself came from at first it was going to be a vampire.
Oh wow.
And then they had DC DC meets vampires, or they had some event with DC and vampires.
Yeah.
And so they said, I can't do vampires. And I wanted to put Batman and Swamp Thing together because that was what I grew up on.
Oh
And both from the Lin Wen, Bernie Wrightson series and Alan Moore did the same thing. And I wanted to do one as well because I love those books so much. And they said, can't do it. So I went back and was like, what about a werewolf? What if a werewolf was terrorizing Gotham City? But it was a werewolf from the vein of the Universal monsters. His name was Christian Talbot, and I think in the original Wolfman Lon Chaney movie that I saw, it was Peter Talbot, and he was a curse. He was in Romania, and he was cursed, with the pentagram and a werewolf. And I wanted Batman to have to leave Gotham City. I wanted him to have to be able to use his wits as much as he uses his gadgets and stuff and his muscles. He had to think,
yeah.
and his faith was being tested as well, or lack thereof, because of, the conversations him and Zatanna about faith and what all of that means. So, you give me a church, you give me a werewolf, you give me Gotham City and the dark and all of that. We'll come up with some fun stuff to do.
Dude,
Tore off Batman Bat's wing. Yeah, that was fun too.
Well, I mean, now that you brought up Swamp Thing, I mean, I can picture you doing an awesome story for Swamp Thing.
I would
Like you
love.
said, if you go back to Wrightson and the way he
Mhm,
wrote and drew, and
mhm.
everybody worked on the comics, I can see you doing an awesome story.
I would love to call up Jim Lee. Tell Jim, Rodney Barnes and Swamp Thing were made for one another. And, I've tried. If you give me a choice from a commerce place and just, being able to say I did it, I'm going to choose Batman first because that's one of the things you check off your bucket list of Batman.
Yep.
But if you ask me for my emotional bucket list, nothing is bigger and better than Swamp Thing. Alan Moore and Swamp Thing and that whole run changed my life. I feel like I buy volume one once a year in hardcover just to take on a plane and read again. But yeah, that was fantastic.
No, no, definitely. So for us
Yes.
right now, for Han Solo hunting for the Falcon. Now, without spoilers, I know it's taking place between the timeline, kind of like Rogue One, where we're
Yes.
getting the story there, and it's going into New Hope. So kind
Yes.
of the same premise. So we're gonna get new adventures, new planets, possibly.
Yep.
So you have an open playground for you right now?
For the most part, I mean, it's never open.
Yeah.
You have the villains and heroes that you can use. You have the environment that's sort of laid out before you. You don't want to do anything that is too far away because all of this stuff becomes canon after a while. So you don't want to do anything that veers away from the movies because then somebody's going to say, "Hey, wait a minute. How do you get from here to here? Where'd that character go?" and whatever. So the Lucasfilm folks are really great at keeping you within a certain environment and whatever the rules are, whether that's before you've written a script, after you've written a script, they can take it and say, it's not that ship, it's this ship.
Oh wow.
Um, and just a lot of different details that I would never. I'm amazed. Actually, I'm speaking the least when I'm on the calls with these people because they know everything about Star Wars.
Wow.
And I forget. I'm at a point right now where I forget stuff. So I need people to come in and give me that oh yeah, how about this guy? How about that guy? And so yeah, but it's still an honor to be able to play in this space. I never thought I would have.
Oh, dude. I mean, like Mark Bernardin had brought it up at one point that
Mhm.
when he was writing the Mace Windu, he was like, "I want to do this and do that," and they're like, "Nope, you can't do this, you
Yep.
can't do that." And it's
Yep.
like, wow, I didn't realize like you have, like you said, you have all these people who know this, and are like, "Well, this didn't happen at this point, this didn't happen at that point," so they can kind of keep it in canon, like you said.
Yeah.
But with this stuff that you're doing right here, the way I feel it is, it's basically I feel Inquisitors and the Han Solo piece is basically what we're getting when um Star Wars Rebels came out.
Yeah.
It was a separate world, but it was in the same time frame as everything
Yeah.
else that was going on in the movies, and we're getting that little bit of this for it to fill in little holes of like the Empire, and
And, and I think that that part is brilliant on their part
yeah.
because for like a year before I did the Mandalorian adaptation, we were talking about doing an original Mandalorian story.
Oh
And
wow.
I pitched a bunch of stories, but their concern was that, they didn't know what was going to come out of the TV show. So that's where the adaptation came in for that and Ahsoka and a couple of other adaptations that I've done um, that haven't come out yet. That of course I can't talk about, but
Oh wow.
with things that happen between movies and between TV shows and things that don't necessarily rock the boat too much. So always happy to be able to jump in and create like an Inquisitor's Jedi Tensu run. And each book, it seems like I'm able to do something. I wrote in an IG-88 story for War of the Bounty Hunters, and that was basically Pinocchio and a
Oh
story I always wanted to tell. So, it's great to be able to play in these spaces.
yeah. Well, now that you brought up Inquisitors, I was the first time we had you on, we were talking about it, like teasing it. Now that
Hmm.
it's out and everything, if you haven't read it, too bad. Spoilers. Go get the book. Come back. Watch this. How did you coming up with that Jedi?
Yeah.
Where did you say, "Hey, this is what I'm going to come up with. This is who he is." Where did that come from?
I wanted to create a Jedi that was as impactful as Luke Skywalker,
Oh wow.
but didn't necessarily meet the same fate. Like you wanted him to have all of the virtues of a hero, to embrace the Force, to have all of the different tenets of everything that could line him up to be successful. But yet the odds were against him because we're living in a galaxy, or we're operating in a galaxy where, there's no guarantee that the good guys are going to win. And I wanted to create the ultimate good guy, but his fate is a little different than Luke Skywalker's. I don't want to spoil it, but
Oh, yeah.
I wanted him to be impactful. I wanted him to have the potential of becoming a legend. I wanted him to be all of the things that Order 66 was about, and why you got to crush the Jedi. And in order to do that, you have to see him be heroic. You can't just say, "Hey, this guy's heroic." You have to see him do some stuff and understand why it's necessary for him to be hunted. Um, so it was really just creating another shade of Luke Skywalker and some of the other Jedi who um, were very successful at being Jedi's.
Well, I mean, now, I mean, technically, you said stuff that's currently being written now. Everything that we see currently in comics is becoming canon
Yes,
current. So
yes.
your character is a canon
Hmm.
Jedi, that is in the world, um, which is everything that's currently going on from the Battle of Jakku comic series. That one
Hmm.
was phenomenal. Alex did a great job on that one too. So right now I feel for people who don't read comics, I feel they're missing out because they're
Oh,
waiting
big
for
time.
they're waiting for the TV shows and they're waiting for the movies, but there's so much action going on in these comics that they're missing out on. And
Big time.
it's like how can we get people to get intrigued in this and get not just focus on the shows, read this stuff because there's so much behind it.
Well, I think what you're doing right now is very, very helpful as well. Being able to talk about them because comics don't really have the same. When a TV show comes out, it's heavily marketed. You see advertising, you see billboards, you see posters, you see things that tell you that this thing is coming. You can see a trailer that gets you excited. Same thing with a movie. Like you realize it's coming. It can be spectacular in a way that comics aren't on the surface. On the surface, a comic is a comic, and you really only have the cover to take a new reader in. How great the cover is, the thing that's going to make them pick it up and then open it up and hopefully buy it and read it. Um, and it's a different distribution model. Like you can turn on your television and see the TV show, and sometimes turn on your television and see the movie. You only have to leave your couch. To get a comic, you got to go to a comic shop, maybe Amazon, maybe Comixology. I don't know if they still do what they do. But either way, there's a little more effort that you have to put into something that is going to take a little more effort than just pushing a button and seeing. I still love comics. That's why I do it. I don't think anybody makes comics to get rich. I do it because it was a vital part of my childhood and I loved it and I still love them to this day. And I want to keep making them. As long as I'm alive, I want to make comic books.
Nice.
And I love them. And I love the Star Wars universe as well. I just wish that there was a way. Like when I was a kid, every corner store had a spinner rack. And it
Yep.
wasn't just about Wednesdays, it was about whenever they came, whenever the manager decided he was going to change comics over.
Yeah.
And that was a part of my life. When I was a kid, I would go up, take my lunch money, sometimes figure out ways I could get them out of the store without paying. Talking little kids now, 6, 7, 8 years old, because I loved comic books that much. They were my friends. They were very, very important to me, and like I said, still are. I don't know how you foster that love without them being as accessible and costing. We're talking 20 cents or a quarter back
Yeah.
then. That's how
True.
old I am. Now they're like $4, $5. You know, Different experience. Um, just a completely different culture today of comics than they were when I was growing up. And I think that makes it hard sometimes for, a lot of readers to jump in because how do you jump in? If you go in a comic shop, one of the huge ones, it was funny. I was a judge for at San Diego for the Eisner Awards for Best Comic Shop.
Oh
And they
wow.
have some comic shops that are like Walmarts that are
Mm,
huge. If you know nothing about comics and you just walk into a shop and you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to start. There's
yep.
so many different books and there's so many different things. And the quality of the stuff is high, but you don't know. where to start. So I think it's kind of tough.
No, it is. And the graphic novels, I feel, and it just this what I feel it kind of hurts is if they're not picking up when they're coming out, it
Yeah,
means it gets canceled, and then you may get a graphic novel if you're lucky, and if not, then you have a great story that either ends and doesn't get a complete ending, or just because they weren't picking it up when ordering it and stuff.
right. And some
eh,
people wait for the collection. They don't get the floppies.
exactly. And I feel this is just how I am. It's called. Oh man, I don't know if you're sure. Have you ever heard of it? Double dipping.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Well, I know in different areas, but how you read both, you get the floppy and you get the collection.
Yeah. So okay. So this is how I do it. I get it. I read it. Put it in my bag. Board. Put it in a box. Do that once. Never touch them again. Wait till
Right.
graphic novel comes out. Then if I ever want to go back and read it, like you said, I get on a plane. That's what I read. My comics sit in the box.
That's a commitment.
Yeah. And then I mean, if you can see in the background, I
Yes.
love art. All these are
Yeah.
commission pieces that I've had artists do for me, and
Yes.
I have them sign my books because we're losing legends.
Oh, big time.
And that's why I'm doing this currently, because I want people like you and people to know who you are and the stuff that you've worked on, because you are behind the scenes, and
Mhm.
unless people see you other
Oh
than at
yeah.
a comic book show,
Yes.
they're not going to know who you are. And I
Yeah.
feel like people need to know who you are. I mean, the stuff that you have done. I mean, Philadelphia,
Mhm.
are we going to get a Kickstarter to end our
I'm going to get back to Philadelphia. I don't think I could ever do Philadelphia without Jason Sean Alexander.
Oh yeah, I mean
We are kind of married at the hip, and right now he's doing a bunch of stuff. I'm doing a bunch of stuff.
yeah.
So it's tough because my day job is television. So we're in a funky time in Hollywood where everybody's out pitching and trying to find new places and new ways of making TV shows. So right now, that's taking up a good chunk of my time figuring out where my
Wow.
next home is. But um, when it comes to comics, stuff like Philadelphia, you were thinking about it. Most people these days don't go into the 30s as far as issues are concerned. Like I grew up with a Hulk that could be 400 or Detective Comics 700 and something.
Yeah.
Most indie comics don't run like that.
No.
Maybe there are a few, maybe some Savage Dragons or Spawns or whatever. But Philadelphia, we were burning the midnight oil trying to get those done while we were trying to do other things and paying
Oh
bills.
wow.
So took a break. I've come up with some new stuff that I think can enhance the story somewhat, and also trying to get the TV show on the air too, and trying to get the
Dude, that
adaptation done. So there's a lot of Philadelphia stuff happening beneath the surface that hopefully one day we can talk about and get excited about.
I mean, come on. I mean, if you look at Walking Dead and you look at Revival, they both came out at the same time frame.
Hmm.
Revival just currently hit the TV, and I mean that's if you watch the show and you look at the comic, they're
Hmm.
like it looks like you're looking at the comic page, and the stories are great. And I could see Philadelphia. I mean, it's like in my mind, I can imagine the scenes, like sitting on the edge of the bed, and I, like I said, this is how I see things. But with that, I could see that into a series. And
Well,
what you had towards the end before it got canceled, it was getting good. Where you were having Spawn introduced, you were having. I
we never
wanted
got
to know.
canceled. We just stopped. We just stopped
Oh,
for a
so
minute. We
okay,
just
okay,
took a
okay.
break.
I
We
thought.
never got canceled. It was just a thing of where like I said, I think Jason was doing some other stuff at Image
Oh,
and
okay,
some other
okay. I had
mainstream
thought it was.
stuff. No, I was doing Full Moon and two Star Wars books at a time, and
Oh
and
wow.
two TV shows and three movies. So it's like something at some point has got to give, or I'm gonna be writing at my funeral. Wait a minute, don't bury me yet. I've got two more pages to write. So that's why we took a break.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, yeah, because at that time frame too, you were doing Showtime as well.
Yeah, yes, winning time. Yes, that too.
Winning time. I mean,
Yes, everybody says Showtime, but yes, winning time.
how did you? I mean, okay, you just mentioned that, but how? I mean, did you ever get sleep?
Um, I can tell you this: I got sleep, but the amount of stress trying
Oh,
to, because it's not like you write a script, turn it in, and everybody says, "Oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever." You get notes. You get notes, and sometimes There's a script that I just wrote for a project that I have at a major network, and I've written at least 100 drafts on that script. And between what the actor wants, what the network wants, what I want, and it's a constant grind to make it what everybody wants it to be. Comics aren't that bad, but they do have, usually there are two or three different drafts once I turn it in that I have to go beyond, above and beyond to
Oh, dang.
address notes. And it's only 24 hours in a day. And I got to sleep at least 8 of them. So it's tough.
I can imagine. I mean, it like you mentioned, they're two different worlds, and Hollywood is, like you said, a little bit more demanding compared to, like you said, comics.
Hmm.
But even that, I mean, you working on Chris. I mean, you've worked with great people on writing stories. I mean, the show that got on HBO that we were talking about, basketball. Your Love Is
Yes.
Basketball. Um, I'm not a Lakers fan because I'm a Spurs fan, but
Understood.
I
I
but I
was a
enjoy.
76ers fan.
Okay,
So
yeah,
there
but
you go.
I enjoyed the show though. It was so awesome seeing the characters portray it, like Riley, Magic. I mean, it was so good. I was like,
Thank you.
man, I was like, I don't know how y'all came up with it. I mean, and also too, I mean, for the time frame, like even to pitch it at the time it aired and
Well, it's
everything.
based on a book. It's based on a book called Showtime by the great Jeff Pearlman. That's where
Yeah.
everything started, was from that book.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, I just interviewed um Nigel, who was in
Hmm.
Heaven's a Playground, and that was
Hmm.
based off a book off Sports Illustrated writer.
Hmm.
And coming to find out, I did not know this. That was supposed to be Michael Jordan's first movie.
Wow.
Yeah,
There
I
you
didn't
go.
know that. Yeah, and he told me, he's like, yeah, he's occasionally it was supposed to be Michael, but at that time he was just up and coming, so they were putting it together. He said it took like 2 or 3 years to put together, and
Hmm.
by the time they did it, Michael was already up here.
Yeah, he's Michael B. Jordan now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, wow. But getting to know this stuff, I mean, do you have any projects that you could tell us about that maybe be coming up at San Diego, maybe? Or
I've got a book called Crownsville. It's a ghost story set in a mental asylum
oh wow,
that I'm doing with Oni Press.
oh wow,
Um, I've got another horror themed book that I'm doing with Panic that
oh
they will talk about at some point. Um, you already covered Star Wars. What else? What am I behind on? Let me look at my board and see what I'm really behind on. 30 Days of Night. I'm doing 30 Days of Night with IDW. I just turned
oh
in my last script, I think, the other day. It's 40 pages per issue, so it's a big book. But those are the big four that I can think of right now off the top of my head.
oh nice. So 30 Days of Night, is
Yeah.
that the continuation of the original?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Working with
Oh,
the great Steve Niles.
oh man, dude, I remember at one point he moved to Austin. He was here for a little bit, then he moved
Hmm.
back. But yeah, oh dude, that's gonna be some awesome stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so in, I say 2 words, 3 words, can you tell us what fans have to look forward to for Han Solo without spoilers? Just
A lot of fun. I think a lot of fun. You get to see Han with Chewie and their dynamic, and an older Han and an older Chewie. So
oh wow.
it's you get to play on that sort of odd couple-ish type of, I don't feel like doing this. Why are we out here doing this type of thing? And it's sort of like Han is going through, I won't say a midlife crisis, but there is a thing where it's hard for him to not be who he's always been.
Oh
you know
wow.
he's struggling with that thing, so it's a lot of fun. Very proud of it. um can't wait for folks to see it and tell me what they think. They will tell me. They will tell me.
Yes, they will. And
Yeah.
just like now, we got you on, talked about a quizzer about the Jedi you created. Hopefully, we
Hmm.
can bring you back. And
I'm happy to come back.
once that drops, we can talk about how did you come up with this story? How did you come up with their bickering? All that's going to be fun to hear. Again, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on to Countdown and talk about comics and talk about your work that you have done.
Happy to anytime.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much, guys. Hey, guys, go follow him. He always has cool stuff that he's posting. You get these little clips of his podcast as well. You can hear the stories. His voice helps a lot, and
It does.
it's kind of creepy when you hear him talking about the stories.
Yes.
But yeah, check him out, and then they can follow you on Instagram.
At the Rodney Barnes. At the Rodney Barnes.
There we go. All righty, guys. Peace.
Later.